Welcome to DeepTech315. I'm Gene. That is Doug. First topic today, hard to escape it. It is, of course, TikTok. As of just this recording, the Supreme Court has come out and said that they will not step in and block a banning of the site. At the same time, last night, we have President Biden coming in and saying that he's going to essentially punt this over to Trump, kind of just put and stir all of that together. I've got a pretty strong opinion of how this is going to play out. Doug, you and I have not talked about this, so this is fresh for me. What are you thinking?
I think that what was agreed to 4 years ago, which was some U.S. entity or entities acquire TikTok, bring the infrastructure to the U.S., and that's the outcome. I don't think that China will just shut it down and take a zero. It doesn't make sense to me, but that's probably the only other scenario at this point.
So, are the 170 million TikTok users going to be able to use the product in a week?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I can say almost certainly they'll be able to use it because look, what's the mechanism by which you shut down TikTok? It is you pull it off of app stores. That's what we're talking about this weekend. Potentially, I mean, the law is in effect, and I think that Google and Apple will have decisions that they probably have to make ahead of whatever the Trump administration ultimately decides to try to push for here. I think, yes, users will still probably be using TikTok. It's not like you can wipe it from people's phones,
Right.
but you can remove it from the App Store.
How about a year from now?
Oh, yeah. Because, like I said, I think that a US entity will end up acquiring TikTok. So, yes, a year from now, it'll still be around.
And from my perspective, I was on that same train. It's going to get acquired. I've now changed my opinion and believe that this is just going to remain business as usual. And the reason why is that the political capitulation that has happened is remarkable. And we went from back in April, bipartisan support to a level that we haven't seen over the past 8 years. 82% of the Senate, 87% of the House voted in favor of this ban. And since then, we've heard, of course, what Trump has said during the election. But what has surprised me is the level that the Democratic Party is talking more about finding a way for people to keep their TikTok. And then, of course, Biden's changed too. So I'm far from a legal or political expert, but my sense is that this is going to get punted. There's going to be some adjustment to it. They're going to bring it back to Congress. And I bet Congress's vote on this is going to be totally different than it was a few months ago. And the vote will be just to keep it in place.
I would say, I mean, anything's possible when you're talking about a unique situation. And this is a unique situation. I think the challenge will be, a law has been passed. I wouldn't say the Trump administration has been pro or anti TikTok. I think that when you think about the political ramifications, the bigger question to me, and will it encourage Congress members to flip flop on their votes, because most of them did vote to do this in the first place. It comes down to this idea of freedom of speech. I think the most dangerous thing about doing this, of forcing a sale, right, or shutting it down ultimately if there's no sale, is it does invite the question of, well, what might be the threat to X? What might be the threat to Meta, Facebook, Instagram? In the future, if some party gets control of Congress and the presidency, might they say, hey, we don't like X because it leans a certain way, or we don't like Instagram because it leans a certain way. Now we're going to force this thing to be shut down or sold. That's the most dangerous part of this whole thing.
The free speech piece.
The yeah, exactly. The free speech piece. But I do think you have to balance that with the national interest piece here, where it does feel like there is some clear issue,
Yeah.
What do you call it, a threat or not, that China is using TikTok in a way that's probably not great for Americans.
Right. I think that I would use the word clear too. And so there's one side of this, which is how is this going to play out, and trying to do the mental gymnastics around that. And, you're on the sale camp. I'm in the camp that this ends up just finding its way forward. Then there's the other piece of what does it mean? And I think that there have been two takeaways for me. One is I think just the power of a solid product that is addictive and the ability for that. I mean, this is unprecedented for an app, a product to get this kind of attention. And I think it just speaks to how important this product is. 170 million users, average age 24 in the US. Average time is about 70 minutes a day. Now that compares to about 40 minutes a day for Instagram. And so you've got greater engagement. And I think that one piece is like great products that have sticky, addictive, call it what you like, are ones that are they stand up. And I actually think it's probably a good read on, as bizarre as this is, like NVIDIA, that they have great products that stand up, that who's addicted to them, the hyperscalers. So that was one takeaway from me. And I guess beyond just the positioning around this, the second takeaway I had was around this post-privacy world. You've talked a lot about this. I remember 3-4 years ago, you were really emphasizing that, if you're younger, you really don't care as much. You care if your bank gets hacked or your credit card gets hacked. Of course, we all care about that. But your personal data, it's just kind of like, who cares? I mean, I would suspect that most people who are on TikTok understand by now that has some sort of China affiliation. And that I think this is the best example that we are truly in a post-privacy world, which is bizarre to me, given how much regulation is around all this privacy. And it turns out that the younger people actually don't care.
Well, I'll respond to both of your things. One is all great companies, I believe, create addictive products. I mean, Apple, your iPhone's addictive.
Right on.
Meta,
Yep,
those products are addictive. Amazon's addictive. How amazing is that? Google's addictive. And so that's just a reality of being a great product. TikTok, it's a great product and a great company as measured by size, even if it's not great for society. When you think about just the scale, right? And
by the way, I agree with you. Not good for society, but yeah, keep going with your scale.
And I mean, all social media, all technology, all have things that are gives and takes. Communication and connection, I think, are valuable things. But in extremes,
what's the pro on TikTok is mindless entertainment.
The ability to get a message out to the world, to hundreds of millions of people, I think is a good thing.
What about for the user? What's the benefit to the user?
Again, same thing. You can go on X, you can go on TikTok, and you can use it to learn useful things. The problem is that most of us don't want to spend that much time learning useful things. We want to be entertained by silly things and ephemeral things.
Right. So the value is,
the algorithm's
I mean,
built for.
I said mindless, but in fairness, like Disney.com or Disney Plus is mindless, Prime Video is mindless. It's all
most
Netflix. It's all under that same category.
Most entertainment's mindless. Yeah, definition. I mean, that's the point of leisure, is that you don't want to be stressing your mind. You want to be in a relaxed state. And we can, again, you go down a whole rat hole of debating the merits of social media, but we can leave it at there are some merits and there are certainly some dangers to it. And I think that whatever happens here with TikTok, whether it gets banned, whether it remains, social media is not going to go away. And I think for me, the bottom line takeaway is whether people migrate to Instagram or X or Reels, whatever it might be, people are going to keep using social media tools to the same extent.
Does the irony of China being frustrated with the US on this, does the irony of that ever catch you?
In what way? What do you mean being frustrated with the US?
They don't allow Instagram. I mean, like this conversation, it would never even get off the ground in China.
Yeah, they don't. Yeah.
And so
I guess, I would maybe take some issue with the word frustrated. I don't know how China feels about this with the U.S. I think anytime
they're definitely not supportive of it. They akin it to, they like it to
but
robbery.
Anytime you have an adversarial country that is trying to do something right to a product that your country has created,
but they've done it to us. It goes both ways.
Totally, but yeah, I think that's also right. You're explaining, right? Like, of course you're gonna be frustrated. The U.S. we're frustrated that our products aren't there. Are we not frustrated that we can't sell certain products in China? Sure we are. I just think it's all part of the political game. I don't think
For
it
sure, it's
matters.
part
I
of the
don't think the
political
irony
game. It just,
matters, I
to me,
guess
it
is my
feels like
point.
it's, well, the reason why, at the end of the day, is that the reason why they do it to us and we don't do it to them is how this, I think, is going to play out. We're not going to do to them what we do to us is because we just have different values. That's what
I
I
think
think.
that is true. Although we may tariff some of their products, and I'm sure they'll be
Mhm.
frustrated by that. That's just the way that geopolitics works, though.
One other piece, and the theme of the truth is below, several layers below the surface. There is one positive piece. If TikTok does, in both our scenarios, TikTok's around, this is really the crown jewel of China's success when it comes to technology, consumer technology in the US. I mean, you can look at Temu, but the reality is that this is just a much more engaging product. And so I think that if this was banned, this would really poke the panda bear. And if not banned, I think it also sends a message of kind of willingness to work with you too. I could see Chinese leadership, because it's so important, kind of take a step back, and like I would have predicted some sort of over time, over the next year, an escalating trade war around what's going around with these back and forth. And but I think it would be in some ways a de-escalation of that.
Maybe I think things are just so unpredictable would be my counter to that. Where I mean, look, no matter who wants to take credit for this, the situation in Palestine, with Israel, right? I mean, that seemed to have resolved itself pretty quickly now that we have a new administration. And so I think when you have a new sheriff in town, whether you like him, whether you don't like him, it doesn't really matter. The reality is, it does seem like some of
Right.
our relations internationally are changing. And I think um, just rationally looking at the outgoing president versus the incoming president, the incoming has a history of being fairly direct, it seems, with some of our international allies and not allies. And things were generally fine, I think, in the prior presidency, and we'll see what happens in this one.
Speed round topics 2 and 3. TSM reported the stock was up about 5% on that. The bottom line is that the AI trade is alive and well and intact. They actually guided for revenue for calendar 25 to be in line with the street at 25%. We had the stock move higher on that because I think there's this kind of concern that somehow things are going to slow. About a quarter of their business is the most advanced 3 nanometers. They're going to 2 eventually. That was my takeaway. It was your takeaway, actually, Doug, was the AI trade is alive and well. I don't want to steal your thunder, but that was the kind of the punchline. Anything more to add on TSM?
I'll just reiterate that all roads lead to TSM when you think about AI hardware. And I mean, one thing we've been talking about for this year is, does the trade for AI hardware chips specifically sort of navigate maybe a little bit more toward custom silicon? Obviously Google has been spending a lot of money there, TPUs with Broadcom, Meta's building chips, Microsoft's building chips, Amazon, everybody's building chips if you're a legitimate AI company. And I do think that theme, this custom silicon theme, will be a big thing, whether it's this year or next. And no matter who of these hyperscalers or the partners that they're working with are winners, they all are going to use TSM.
Makes sense. Final topic. At the end of the day, Anduril, which is a company that is in the private space, and they are in defense tech, they just line up all the things that are going on. If this is a public company, it would have a much higher valuation than its last round, which is around $14 billion. They're going to open up a new facility in Charleston, I believe. No, not Charleston, in Ohio.
Columbus, Ohio.
Columbus, Ohio. Yeah. Thank you. And what's the takeaway?
The takeaway is that
They're going
I think
public.
Innovation. Will they go public? Is that the
They're
question?
going public. I mean, they've been pretty clear. Palmer Luckey's been clear on every CNBC and Bloomberg appearance that they're going public soon.
Eventually, yeah. I'd probably take the under on this year, maybe next year. That'd be
2
my
years.
guess. I think
Awesome.
that's probably a relevant, good time frame.
All right, we're excited for Anduril to be in the public markets as well. On behalf of Deep Tech, bye for now.